Hello YouTube, this is Froogle taking a look today at the Milviz F86 Sabre for FSX. This is a pretty incredible aircraft, I gotta say. Only came out a couple of weeks ago. I just did a review on it for the magazine, so if you're interested in seeing a detailed review, please check out PC Pilot. But beautiful, beautiful, beautiful aircraft. Look at this model. Amazingly detailed. This is a strange aircraft in that it actually wasn't that successful. It was created towards the end of World War II and then went into service after World War II and really only stuck around for about 10 years before it was made obsolete by other advancements in the field. Let me see if I can zoom around here and show you more of this aircraft. It really is very, very intricately modeled. And it's a complete bear to fly, as you're going to see in a minute. Look at this. Single engine. Single very, very powerful, very noisy engine. Now I actually had the hardest time mastering this, in particular mastering landing. As you can see, the pilot sits quite a way back from the nose, doesn't have that good a level of visibility over the nose, so it's quite hard when you're landing and your nose high to gauge where you need to be, where the aircraft needs to be in order to touch down. Now there are no working weapons on this. There is an update coming. Apparently Milviz have said that they're going to support TACPAC, so when TACPAC actually launches, then this will be TACPAC enabled, which will be pretty cool. You can, however, put stores on it. If you press Shift 2, there's this really handy little thing here. I can hook up ground power, turn that off. I can change the payload over here, which is where things get very, very interesting, although it doesn't seem to be wanting to work for me right now. Oh, there we go. So I can change the number of rockets it's carrying. I can add on drop tanks. Notice how the suspension compresses when you do all this. Wonderful level of detail on here. So you can put weapons and stores on it in that respect, and you can jettison them when you're flying, so you can kind of almost simulate a bombing run if you really want to. Here's the cockpit. Let me disable my track IR for a second, and I will show you around this very, very intricate cockpit. Actually quite basic, given the fact that this is by North American, same company that made the P-51, the Mustang. It actually has quite some similarities in the cockpit to the P-51. Very, very basic, very, very simple. Not much in the way of glass cockpit displays in here, not much in the way of navigational aids other than the usual VORs and NDBs. The sim does model icing and all that good stuff, so you have to be aware of that. Also it models fogging, so canopy defrost is currently on, windshield anti-ice is currently on, otherwise things get very, very awkward when you start flying through clouds. Look at this. Crazy level of detail. Anyway, let me put this into the air and we can go for a fly. Show you where the real fun is. By the way, that's the view. Obviously as a driver, as a pilot. So when you're landing it, it's quite hard. So I set up another view, which is that one. The sim does actually come with views. Let me turn track IR back on, where you're kind of shifted to the side like that, so you get a better view of the runway. Incidentally, if you watch YouTube videos of this flying for real, people do tend to approach from the side, so you're looking at the runway about there, and then you're turning very late and landing in the real aircraft. Let me contact the tower here and see what we can do about getting airborne. That's just to pass straight out.
Smyrna Beach round, Air Force 7906, ready to taxi, departing straight out with X-ray. Air Force 7906, taxi 2 and hold short of runway 29er, please taxiway. Contact tower on 119er, wind 675 when ready. Taxiing, hold short, runway 29er, via taxiway, Air Force 79.
Now, I'm not familiar with this airport. It is very close to the airport I normally fly out of for real. But that airport, which would be Orlando Sanford International, has a huge long taxi today. So I decided to go to the nearby New Smyrna airport, which has a considerably shorter taxi. Now this aircraft does suffer the usual FSX bug in that you need an inordinate amount of power to get moving on the ground. It's a bit of a letdown, but not a big deal. Now the other important stuff to remember about this aircraft is it has no autopilot, and it's incredibly unstable. There's actually a slider, let me pop this window open, there's a slider here on miscellaneous, here trim, which really governs how much trim input and how stable the aircraft is in flight. You need that. In the real aircraft, pilots are always having to manage this thing in the air. It's never a hands-off experience. You get a lot of that in FSX as well. Milviz have done a very, very good job. The other issue with this aircraft, and it's not really a problem with it, it's just a quirk of the aircraft itself, is that engine is very powerful. It's incredibly hard to keep the speed down. So when you're trying to fly a pattern or something, keeping the speed down, keeping the aircraft in the air is just crazy hard to do. And as I said, it took me quite a while to figure out how to land this thing as a result. Requires quite a long runway to take off. It's not really the most aerodynamic of aircraft. Alright, let's contact the tower here. I am good to go.
Milviz Tower, Air Force 7906, ready for departing straight out at runway 29er.
Air Force 7906 cleared for takeoff. Runway 29er.
Alright, clear for takeoff.
Approved.
I acknowledge that. Flaps down.
Runway 29er, Air Force 7906.
Incidentally, before we get in the air, look at this. Zip around here. There's the flaps. You can see them down. Speed brake is kind of neat. Look at this. It's just a flap on the side of the aircraft. Very basic. Alright, not even sure if we're going to have enough runway here, but we shall try it. Going for 100 knots. V1, rotate, V2. Now because it's so unstable, you don't tend to climb hard straight away. You hold this almost in a very shallow climb until it's stabilized and the gear is up. There we go, flaps up. Now we can start to climb. Look at the speed now, we're up to 200 already. And that speed will just go up and up and up if you don't keep it in check.
Air Force 7906, releasing my airspace. Frequency change approved.
So let's head to the south, down towards Orlando Sanford. And I can show you a little bit about what this aircraft's all about. So excuse the lack of scenery. We are flying around Florida. It's pretty flat, pretty barren. But it is a nice place to get to grips with an aircraft. There we go. Southish. So Orlando Sanford should be over there. We'll see it in a bit. So let me show you what this aircraft can do. If you give it full power, it is incredibly fast and incredibly agile. Sounds amazing. We're going up to 250 already. $300. Alright, let's go. Look at that climb. Isn't that crazy? 250. 200. We're 7,000 feet up in seconds. Let's see if I can put this into a flyby view. The sound set is very, very good. There we go. Beautiful aircraft. Very, very agile, as you would expect. It's a fighter. Obviously quite hard to fly it in that view. Let's get back in the cockpit here. So we're already breaking the speed limit. We're at 325. That beep noise now is warning me that I'm almost zero throttle and I don't have the gear down. Let's go scare the crap out of the people down at Orlando Sanford for a bit. Thoroughly unrealistic. So, with no navigational aids really to speak of other than the VOR, no autopilot, a complete hands-on model constantly. I know a lot of people are going to ask, why on earth would you get this for FSX? Well, you'd get it if you're into this kind of aircraft. If you're into vintage fighters, this is one of the best FSX vintage fighters there is. It's also a challenge to fly. I mean, if you want a real challenge, you want to learn how to master an aircraft, this is phenomenal. It's a fully clickable cockpit. Everything is accurately modeled. It's pretty damn awesome in that respect. Even if you want to do like air show reenactments and basic aerobatics, this aircraft is great for that. I like it. I'm a huge fan of this. As I mentioned earlier, the sound set's pretty cool. Look, if I drop the speed brake out at this point, nice roar. You do tend to land this with the speed brake out and full flaps. It's one of the only ways really to manage the speed. You can see how much the aircraft is moving around already. As you approach the speed limit of this aircraft, the operational limit, it tends to buffet and shake violently. It's quite hard to keep under control. Just go buzz everybody. Put some speed up. Hear the engine screaming now. Quite hard to pull off aerobatic maneuvers because the aircraft is so unstable. Very easy to put this into a spin as well. All that is modeled. Spins, slips, stalls are all accurately modeled. go to a flyby view. Again, very hard to fly in a flyby view, especially an aircraft as unstable as this. That sound there is approaching limits. Anyway, I shall cut the video here, and when I come back we will attempt a landing. I can show you the challenge of landing this baby. Alright, welcome back. So we are in right downwind for runway 27 right at Orlando Sanford. I am a little bit high. I'm about 1,000 feet. About 1,000 feet too high. Need to drop down. Also need to get my speed down about 200. I need to be around about 160. This is where the fun begins, guys. So dropping down to 2,000. Despite the clear to land notice I just got, I'm not going to turn base yet. I really need this speed down. And that's really one of the challenges with this aircraft. You need to stay ahead of it. You see how long it's taking to get the speed down? Just under 200 now. 2,000 feet. So I am descending, albeit very, very slowly. And again, the aircraft is inherently unstable, which is why it's moving around really quite a lot. There we go. Coming down to 1,900 feet now. About 180. A little bit more power. And we'll start our turn onto base. Right, speed brake out, a bit more power. Turning base. Too high. Oh, there goes the speed now down to 150. That rumble sound is not a good sound. Okay, we're now base. At pattern altitude now. Of 1,500 feet here at Orlando Sanford. Trying to get that speed to come up a little. Having got the speed down, with the speed brakes out, it's actually quite hard to maintain it. Starting to climb, which is not what we want. Okay, so let's turn final now. This is not going to be a pretty landing. Okay, here we are now coming up on final. See if we can line up, and I will drop gear and flaps. At which point we're going to need these engines to be screaming. Quite a lot of drag generated from the gear and flaps on this aircraft. There's gear, there's flaps. A little bit too high now. Just drop it down. Not a good picture. Got to be quite gentle with the throttle as well. If you chop the throttle on and off, you can cause a flame out. Which is very impressive that that's modelled, and air stars are modelled as well. Just not really what I want to happen on finals. Now thankfully this runway is very long, we're now very low. Thankfully this runway is very long, you kind of need all the runoff distance on this. You can already see, if I start to nose up now, visibility is awful, so I have a view set up there. Aircraft now wants to climb. Very, very unstable and wallowy. Wonderful challenge. start this flare without ballooning too much. That's a nice allegiant there. And we're down. Alright, hit the brakes. And we're down. So thank you for watching. As always, my name is Froogle. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this aircraft and other aircraft you want to see. And as always, thank you once again for watching. Cheers, guys.
Air Force 7.